Hello everyone and welcome to another Adamsaurus music review where I review music no one cares about. Although this week I'm thinking I'm going to be reviewing something that a lot of you care about. At least a big chunk of you. Today we're going to be talking about Erase Me, the new album by Underoath. Now, for those of you asking who Underoath is, go Google it, because it's a long history. Okay, it's not that long, but Underoath is a Christian metalcore / post-hardcore band that started off with almost a pseudo black metal sound on their first two albums. Seriously, look up Active Depression and Cries of the Past. They're both like really heavy, brutal albums, but they evolved and streamlined their sound first into a more post-hardcore influenced sound, and then a more metalcore with a post-hardcore influence to it, and then they broke up. They were big in the Christian and secular metal scenes because they were a band that considered themselves a Christian band. Now, first we're going to address the elephant in the room. For this album, Underoath has announced, and I guess they announced this before, but I didn't catch it until they got back together, they are no longer a Christian band, meaning while some members of the band still consider themselves Christian, others are not. Now, that in and of itself doesn't bother me. I identify as a Christian, but I don't, I listen to like Black Sabbath and Metallica, so I could care less as long as you're, playing good music. Now, the big bugbear that seems to be getting in everyone's hair at this point is the implementation of coarse language in the album. That's something I'm not overly cool with myself. Again, I don't mind a little bit of it, but for me, if an album has coarse language in it, the emotion of the album has to match the intensity of the words used, if that makes any sense to you. I think that's a big reason why I'm not a big fan of hip-hop, because the language used to me doesn't generally... Now, I'm not saying all the time. I'm sure there's hip-hop songs that goes with, but a lot of the stuff that I've heard through recent channels just doesn't do anything for me in that regard. But let's not talk about that. We're talking about this baby, the new Underoath album, Erase Me, which... I have the Target Deluxe Edition. Just putting that out there. That's why mine has the slide case. I'm not sure whether the album cover itself is supposed to be making a statement about their walk away from their faith, with the defaced angel on the cover of it. So maybe that might have something to do with it too. As I said, I'm not a big fan of the coarse language. And the lyrics are poetic, and there's an emanating bittersweetness to them. They were written by their vocalist, who apparently had drug issues, and the church basically just turned their back on him. So from like a, wow, that's horrible kind of standpoint, I totally agree with you. That is an awful thing for the church to do, and that's just not cool. That's not very Jesus-like, guys. Let's work on that. But there's more melancholy to this than there is aggression, which is my problem with the implementation of coarse language in it. I don't, other than the song On My Teeth, I was going to call it With My Teeth, I apologize. I feel like the coarse language used just feels out of place, if that makes any sense. That could just be me. If you disagree with me on that, that's cool. Let me know in the comments. But that's my take on this. Now, for the other slightly smaller elephant in the room, the music itself. Now, I was excited when I heard their single On My Teeth. Yes, I have to make sure that's still the title, because I'm really bad with that for this album. I thought, alright, not a fan of the coarse language, but I like the sound. It sounds like Underoath. Underoath always had kind of a techie aggression thing, like the electronic elements mixed with the post-hardcore and metalcore elements, and it sounded good. On My Teeth, to me, sounds like an Underoath song. That's awesome. I was like, yeah! More Underoath, because I'm a man! Then because I'm generally the kind of person I don't listen to songs before albums are released because I'm lazy, I didn't catch the other singles, and I threw this in the day I got it, and I was like, that face for most of the album. Now, my reasoning for this is a very mellow, bitter, and melancholy album, and it's mostly electronic rock-based sound. I think relatively recent Linkin Park is what a lot of people have been comparing it to, but I kind of agree with that, but I'm probably the only one who thinks this. The way some of this album sounds puts me in the mind of the Christian alternative metal band Red. I'm probably, like I said, I'm probably the only one who thinks that, so take that with a grain of salt. But now, here's the problem. My problem with this: the melancholiness matches the relatively down. Let me phrase that: relatively less aggressive tone, because there's a permeating sadness to this, as opposed to the in-your-face aggression that Underoath has had. Now, that's not to say that Underoath has never had songs that were softer. Paper Lung is a perfect example, and there's a couple songs on here that give that same vibe as Paper Lung. But overall, I find this album relatively toothless and mediocre compared to their other stuff. And I feel like, for me, that was more of a violation of expectation. I was expecting, based on the first single, something that comes and kicks you in the teeth with this aggression. I mean, granted, I wasn't expecting a Cannibal Corpse album, mind you, but I was expecting something a little bit more aggressive than what was given to me. While I can't say that I hate this, I will admit that I'm disappointed by this album. As I said, the step away from the faith doesn't bother me, although, from a faith standpoint, lots of prayers going their way and wishing them the best in their careers. But from a music nerd who was expecting something else kind of standpoint, I was very disappointed with the music. I've listened to this a few times since I've gotten it, and I still can't seem to get into it like I could some of their other albums. Now, one thing I do want to mention, if those of you who've been watching long enough, like the 3 of you that watch this channel regularly, those of you that remember my review of the self-titled Suicide Silence album will remember that my big issue was the misrepresentation of what they said it was. They said it was the new form of deathcore. I vaguely recall them saying that. I could be wrong on that. Maybe that's just me going insane, which is entirely possible, everyone. But that was what bothered me about that. I went into that album expecting something completely different than what I got, and what I got with that album was something completely mediocre to begin with. So not only did I have bad music, I also had bad, violated expectations. Now, while I was expecting something heavy, Underoath themselves never mentioned that this would be that heavy. And that's something I can applaud them for. And also, just to get this out of the way, while I am saddened by their departure from Faith, and you can razz on me for that if you want. Most people say that doesn't matter, and from a musical standpoint, it does. From a lyrical standpoint, kind of does, to me. But I do want to applaud them for their open and honest discussion about their not being a Christian band anymore, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because that honesty, I think, is more important than a lot of people would think. I'm glad they're not just pretending they're still a Christian band. So thumbs up to that, guys. So, long story short, I can't necessarily say that this is a great heavy music album, and it doesn't really do anything for me as like an ambient piece either. Like, there's a lot of ambient work. I hope I'm using that word right. I'll have to look that up in the dictionary. But what do I think? I guess is what I'm trying to summarize here. I don't recommend this for you if you're looking for something similar to old Underoath. If you don't like stuff that uses coarse language, I don't recommend this either. There's not enough coarse language in it to make it like super unenjoyable, honestly. But if you're not into that to begin with, you're not going to like this. I recommend this for people who are into bands like Linkin Park's more recent work, Red. Maybe there's also elements of like the modern pop influence metalcore, like Bless the Fall and Memphis Mayfire in here a little bit. I can hear. So if you like them, you might like this too. But to me, this is not a good Underoath album. Granted, it's a good album in its lyrical honesty, if not a bit mediocre. So long story short, if you like alternative metal, give it a shot. If you like stuff that's heavier and was expecting something in the vein of traditional Underoath, then no. Alright, and that is all I have to say about this album. For those of you that watch this channel regularly, stay tuned. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be taking a look at some albums I missed from last year, and maybe 1 or 2 new releases that are coming down the pipes here. So you guys have a great day, and a good night. Farewell.